On this episode of Locked On Angels, when you go 4 for 30 with runners in scoring position against a really good team, you're going to get swept every single time. The Angels lose 3 in a row this weekend against the Jays, and we've got 5 things from each game that you need to know. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's Fitted Hat Day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube and leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with John and I and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Monarch Money. You can take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year.
Fitted Hat Day. Now I have to get the individual head sizes of 40,000 different New Yorkers. Did you see the George bobblehead that they had for a Seinfeld night at Yankee Stadium? It's him sleeping under the desk. Apparently, the tickets were like insane for that game.
I want that. Swilly Sports, get that for us.
Yeah, there you go.
You're in New York now.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
It's Fitted Hat Day. We're both wearing hats. Look at us. And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
We're here 5 days a week talking Angels baseball with you every single weekday, Monday through Friday. On today's show, we watched every game this weekend, and we got 5 takeaways from each game. It was a sweep, not in favor of the Angels, but that's what happens when you run into a team that's steamrolling everybody right now. We'll talk about the haves and the have-nots, Mike, because that's kind of what we saw this weekend, I should say, between the Angels and the Blue Jays. Let's get into Friday's game. It was an extra inning loss, 4-3 in favor of the Blue Jays.
Yeah, each of these games were very, very similar. And so a lot of our takeaways will probably be very similar for each game. First takeaway, John, Joe Adell did extend his hitting streak on Friday to 15 games. Legged out a double, was initially called out, but replay showed that he was safe. Got tagged in the face, and he got like a bloody lip, but he stayed in the game and ended up being a really positive weekend for Joe Adell, even though the team didn't play in a positive way. But he was extending that hitting streak to 15 games on Friday, and he was just a small amount of offense that the Angels had. We'll talk about him in just a moment. John, second takeaway, Kyle Hendricks was good, and then he wasn't good, right?
Yeah. He only gave up 1 hit through 5 innings, and then in the bottom of the 6th, he got into trouble, gave up a leadoff double to Will Wagner, and Andres Gimenez singled him in. Hendricks finished by going 5 1/3, gave up 4 hits and 3 runs. No walks, though, just 2 strikeouts on 82 pitches. He threw a first pitch strike to 15 of the 20 batters he faced. After he left, Jose Fermin allowed 2 more runs that were charged to Hendricks. One came on an RBI single. The other came on an error by Neto. Mike, 82 pitches. Keeping you in the game. This feels, and then the first pitch strike, 15 of 20 batters he faced. A good Hendricks start until it wasn't, just like you said, right?
Yeah, and this is what he's done all year, right? And this is what you want from your 5th starter. And unfortunately, the Angels just couldn't do anything offensively in this game or in any game this weekend. They had a lot of opportunities. Joe Adell was the guy that brought the Angels back. That's our third takeaway from Friday. He did it all by himself. They were down 3-0 in the bottom of the 6th inning. Then Trout gets on with an infield single. Taylor Ward followed with a single, and then Joe Adell hits a 3-run home run to tie the game, his 19th at the time, 111 off the bat, went 430 feet. The Angels had 1 hit and no runs through 6 innings. They had 3 hits and 3 runs in just that 7th inning.
And speaking of that, the Angels had multiple chances to score, and they just didn't. That's our 4th takeaway here. Top of the 5th, Joe Adell hit that leadoff double, and they followed it up with a strikeout, a pop-up, and a pop-up. At top of the 8th, the Angels loaded the bases with 2 outs, but Joe Adell struck out swinging. Top of the 9th, 2 on and 1 out. Kevin Newman grounds into a double play. Then top of the 10th, Mike, 2 on, 1 out. Trout pops out. Taylor Ward strikes out on, can you guess? How many pitches? How many pitches?
Three pitches. Good grief. I was so tired of seeing that this weekend from these Angels, man. They just really struggled again. They're back to swinging and missing and not coming through. And that brings us to the fifth takeaway. The Blue Jays proved why you always bunt, no matter who's up, right? In the 10th inning, Sam Bachman walks the first batter. Ernie Clement followed that, and he hit the ball back to Bachman, and it sailed. He sailed his throw to first base, and that ended the game. This is why you bunt, no matter who's up. This is why contact, it matters. This is why when you do make contact, you have an opportunity to win. And the Blue Jays proved that on Friday night. They put pressure on the defense, and they made the defense have to make a play, and they had to throw some really intense pitches. Bachman had to do that, and other pitchers in late inning games on Saturday and even in Sunday's game. They had to throw some intense, heavy pitches, and the Blue Jays made them do that. The Blue Jays forced the Angels' hand this weekend, and that's what good teams do. And the Angels just seem to be so stuck to the long ball, or so stuck to the analytics, or so stuck to, no, that guy's really going, he's hot, we can't have him bunt, right? But they couldn't even move a runner over from second to third, let alone get that runner in. And that's the biggest Achilles heel for this team this weekend.
Yeah, and when a game finishes like this, 4-3, in extra innings in favor of the home team, you look at this and you go, boy, they really played a close game against a really good team like the Blue Jays. But you have to realize Vladimir Guerrero wasn't in the lineup, right? That was a big deal on Friday. And Mike, you talk about, that was a pretty close game. Well, there's a reason why the Blue Jays won, and it's because they put the ball in play. They don't strike out. They have one of the best contact rates in baseball.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily contact for hitting. It's just making contact. It's putting the ball in play. They have the fewest strikeouts, the last I checked, across MLB. And it's because they put the ball in play. Now, whether that always works or doesn't always work, well, you got to find out and see. And this is a good example of that, putting that bunt in play and making Sam Bachman make a play, which he did not. And that ultimately cost them the game. But it's little things like that where it's like, okay, all we have to do is walk it off. All we have to do is get that one run across and we win this game. And so it's just something that the Angels, I don't know, refuse to do, or refuse to see, or refuse to consider. Because when you're the visiting team, you've got to essentially walk away with 2 runs, because you got to protect that lead when the home team comes up. And, when they can't even move anybody over to third base, it's just really awful baseball. And I think that's the difference here. Yes, the Blue Jays had the advantage of being at home on the 4th of July, for crying out loud. They get to be there for Canada Day and the 4th of July, and nobody even cares, right? So, but it's just like, come on, man. Why can't we have a 4th of July? I think it's been 13 years since we've had one. It's ridiculous. But all that to say, Mike, the better team won, and the better team is the Blue Jays. They swept the Yankees. They swept the Angels. They had a perfect homestand. And this is why they're in the position they're in. And at the end of the day, I think it has a lot to do with being able to put the ball in play and just doing things that the Angels aren't doing. If you wanted to look and see, like, man, if the Angels could just get over this 500 hump, or, maybe they'll buy at the deadline. This is a perfect example of what would happen to them if they accidentally found their way into the playoffs. They would run into a team like this, and they would be outplayed. And I think they got outplayed in this series.
Yeah, they got outplayed, and I think they got outmanaged, John. I think what happens with this team is that they just get so stuck to what they have written down instead of going with feel and going with a sense of like, oh, this is what my eyes are telling me, right? And I know that with Ron Washington, sometimes we would jump all over him with his sense of feel or what his eyes are telling him. But there's something about Ray Montgomery's managerial style versus Ron Washington's style that is really hindering this team and not allowing this team to rise to the occasion. And the 10th inning, extra inning moments are a perfect example of that. Because they strike out so much, you bunt with whoever is at the plate at the moment. You have to move that runner to third base. You have to. And when you have a runner at third base with less than 2 outs, you have to get them in. And that happened over and over and over this weekend. You have to get creative in those moments. What's your gut telling you? As a baseball manager, what's your gut saying to you? Like, can we do a suicide squeeze? We did it 756 times last year, so let's do it again, right? Like a safety squeeze.
And it was the wrong idea every single time last year, but you still tried it.
Yes. Can we do something? Because they just can't make contact. They can't make contact when they need to make contact. And it's the same thing all the time. Well, it's Jorge Soler. You can't bunt with Soler. Well, guess what? Maybe a 202 batting average should tell you that this guy's really struggling. I know it's Zach Neto. He let off one of the innings. I get it. And he did hit a sac fly that moved a runner over. And we'll talk about that. But I even in those moments, I'm like, no, move that runner over. Let's guarantee that he's being moved over. And then let's figure out how to get him in, because this is a really good team. And you've proven that you can't score against this really good team when it counts. So we got to get creative in these moments. And it just felt like they weren't creative at all. Like, no, I trust that guy. I trust he's going to get this guy in. Well, I love that. I love when you can say that you trust the guy. It's Mike Trout. It's Nolan Shonowell. It's Zach Neto, right? I love when you can say that. But there are also going to be moments where you're like, I trust that guy. But in this moment, I got to make a managerial decision. Mm-hmm. In this moment, I got to make a strategic decision. And that didn't happen at all this weekend. Ray Montgomery and the rest of the managers, the rest of the coaches were sitting on their hands all weekend long. Like they didn't feel like there was any sort of thoughtful, creative, hey, let's try to stir something up here. It was the same approach every single time. Yeah.
Stirring something up. That's a really good point, because with the Blue Jays being at home, the crowd has just been crazy all week long. And
as so they should be.
And they had that momentum behind them, which really is, something you can't quantify, Ray, but you can certainly stir up some emotion and stir up something on the field, some fire there. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, we promise we didn't just hit copy and paste on all of our talking points and takeaways from this weekend, but we are going to talk about Saturday and Sunday. We'll get into those conversations coming right up.
You ever thought to yourself, man, I wish managing money was a whole lot easier? Well, it can be with Monarch Money. Whether you're growing your savings or you're planning for a really big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, and spending all in one place. In addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth, and you can take control of your finances with Monarch Money and their help by visiting their website, monarchmoney.com. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. They're going to give you half off your first year just because you entered that promo code and are a Locked On every day or here with Locked On Angels. That's monarchmoney.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year.
They're saving you money right from the get-go. 50% off. Let's go. monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB, 50% off your first year. This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Mike, as we continue our recap of the weekend, we're giving everybody our takeaways from each and every game that took place. Stop me if you've heard this before. The Angels lost 4-3 in extra innings, but this time it was the Saturday edition. It was WrestleMania Night 2, right, Mike?
Right, yeah. First takeaway from this game, Angels got a second chance to win in extras, and they failed. And again, it's because they just couldn't move runners over. Top 10, Kevin Newman is the ghost runner. Zach Neto led off, and he flew out to center. Newman tagged and was able to move to third. So that was despite the Angels' inability to move anybody over. Newman was able to move. Nolan Shonowell then bounced out to the pitcher. Trout was intentionally walked. They're pitching around Trout a lot.
Yeah.
And
because he works counts.
And I think that's really what it is. I think it's because he's working counts, but nobody behind him is able to do anything. And that happened in this game, John. Taylor Ward grounded out to short.
Taylor Ward is predictable. Mike.
Yeah.
And for as good of a game he had on Sunday, they're pitching around Trout to get to Ward because you have a greater chance of the at-bat not being that long. You have a greater chance of striking him out, right? And even though with Trout, you can strike him out, it's usually got to be something in the zone. It's got to be something he swings through. Now, I know that he has the tendency to chase as well, but that all the more glaring to me to see Trout being pitched around as much as he has been, even though the numbers are not quite Trout-esque, he's still a threat up there, and he's still going to take 9 pitches and make this guy work up
Mhm.
there on the mound. I had to laugh because you mentioned the ghost runner, and I love the way Wayne Randazzo put it. He said, well, the commissioner of baseball has placed this runner at second base. Wayne was on one this week, and it was great.
It was good. John, Taylor Ward, he seems off balance, even when he gets a hit. Have you noticed, even with his home runs, he's swinging, and then he's taking that like extra step to keep himself from falling over?
Yeah.
If you watch closely every day, you'll see he'll swing and then he's taking like an extra step. It's like he's an old man that lost his balance and his cane isn't out in front of him. It just seems odd. And that might be part of the reason why he's not been great, and then he's been great, and then not been great, right?
He's lifting the ball that way. And
Yes.
he's getting under it. And I kind of feel like, he had 3 hits yesterday's game, and a couple of doubles, I think. So, I want to see more of those base hits from him, because there will be times where Taylor Ward does feel like all or nothing. And we love when he's all, right? He goes on a tear for like a week or week and a half, and he gives you all. And then there's a long stretch of nothing. And I think it's that uneven, off balance, trying to get under the ball and lift it in the air. Sometimes you just think, man, dude, if you just made solid contact and you hit a line drive, that would be all the difference, because otherwise you have a tendency to fly out if you're not hitting it hard enough to go over the wall.
Yeah. Now, top 11, he was the runner at second base, and Joe Adell fouls out. Soler draws a walk. Ohapi flies out, and Rengifo strikes out. So again, not capitalizing on the opportunities, and that cost them the game, because in the bottom of the 11th, the Jays got a 2-out RBI single to win the game, and that's why they walked it off again in extra innings.
You mentioned Ohapi, and we're actually going to mention him in our third segment, and some comments that he had to say about being up in those situations. I think that they were actually, well, once again, it's him taking responsibility. And so we'll look forward to that conversation. Second takeaway here, Mike, the outing from Jack Kohanowitz looks good on paper and in the box score, but there's kind of some nuance to it.
Yeah.
He went 5 1/3, gave up 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, and 1 strikeout on 82 pitches. If you go deeper than the box score, you're going to see something that we talk about often on this show. That is a lack of shutdown innings. The Angels score and then allow the opposing team to score in the very next at bat sometimes. The very next inning most of the time, but sometimes it's that first hitter does something. But Kohanowitz did that twice in this game. After the Angels got a run in the top of the first, Kohanowitz gave it right back in the bottom of the first. Single, pop out, single, pop out, single, and that tied the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can almost move your head to it like a song. The second time that happened was in the bottom of the third. They gave him the lead in the top of the third. Kohanowitz gave it right back and actually gave up the lead with a 2-run home run to George Springer. The 17th home run that Kohanowitz has given up this season. It was a sinker above the knees. He followed this by giving up 2 singles to Vladdy Jr. and Bo Bichette, but Kohanowitz got a pop out in a double play to get out of the inning. So to his credit, Kohanowitz did hold the Jays down after the home run, but if he's going to have any success moving forward, he needs to learn how to throw a shutdown inning. Mike, he seems so unsure of himself.
Yeah.
Maybe we take the All-Star break to switch him and Reed Detmers around or something. That's a stupid idea, but at some point it feels like, okay, can we get Jack some confidence now? Because can we do what we did for Detmers in the bullpen to have some confidence for Jack Kohanowitz? Because right now it just seems to be lacking it.
It's almost as if the Angels, if they don't score, that's better for Jack Kohanowitz. Because when they didn't score, he was a bit more focused. When they did give him a lead, or the game was at least tied, it seemed like all focus went away, all confidence went away. Yeah. And again, he doesn't have a strikeout pitch, or he hasn't learned how to strike guys out. And so you have Bo Bichette and Vladdy Jr. who are crushing pitches. And once he allows a couple of hits in an inning, there's going to be at least one run that's going to come across.
Yeah.
That's just inevitable for him.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it feels inevitable when it comes to Jack Kohanowitz. The third takeaway here was that the Angels did just enough to stay in the game, but not to win the game. The Angels started the game in the top of the first by loading the bases with 1 out against Max Scherzer. It was a Zach Neto hit by pitch, a Trout single, and a Ward infield single. Joe Adell drew a walk with the bases loaded, and so that was an RBI for him. hey, he's got an RBI in 6 straight games up to this point on Saturday night. Then Jorge Soler followed the walk with a fly out to right field. Trout tagged third, but he was thrown out at the plate. He ran at 29 feet per second. That's just under some good speed, according to StatCast and Baseball Savant. But it was a really good throw by Addison Barger that got him. That freaking Addison Barger. That's going to be the new punchable face of the Blue Jays. He's gonna be Ramon Laureano. He's gonna be Matt Olson. He's gonna be Mark Canha. Right. So he got thrown out. They kept saying on the radio, if Trout had gone in head first, he probably would have had a better chance of being safe at that one, but he went in feet first. So, Mike, despite the loaded bases and against Max Scherzer, who's not the Scherzer of old, but you still want to pile on.
Definitely.
They only got 1 run in the first inning in this one.
Yeah, top of the third, the Angels loaded the bases again with less than 2 outs. Neto singled, and then Trout and Ward walked. Second straight at bat for Joe Adell with the bases loaded. Hit a sac fly to right, which was great. Soler ended the inning, though, by striking out on a cutter way out. It was in the United States. It was so far out of the zone. Then top 7, Rengifo led off, got a single.
Charge a tariff on that base.
Yeah, and then Chad Stevens bunted him over to second base.
There you go, Chad.
When it doesn't matter. Let's do some bunts.
What a Chad move right there.
Zach Neto moves him to third on a ground out, and then Shawnuel singles Rengifo in to tie the game at that point, which was great. Again, the Angels had just enough offense to stay in the game, but not win this game.
Yeah. Fourth takeaway was that the bullpen did everything they could to keep the Angels in this game. Bottom of the 6th, Connor Brogdon had 2 on with 2 out. He got Davis Schneider to strike out. Bottom of the 7th, Jose Fermin had the bases loaded, got Alejandro Kirk to ground out to third. Bottom of the 8th, Reed Detmers, 2 on with 1 out. Detmers gets the final 2 batters to fly out to center field. Bottom of the 9th, Kenley Jansen strikes out the side, gets Guerrero looking, and Bichette and Barger swinging. Even the bottom of the 10th, Mike, you had Ryan Zefferjon in, 2 on with no outs, and got out of the inning. Unfortunately, in the second inning of work for Ryan Zefferjon, that's where the Jays were able to get to him, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then fifth takeaway, the runners in scoring position was just awful this weekend. We know it was 4 for 30. At this point, they were 3 for 22 in the 2-game series, 0 for 9 in extra innings. You have a runner placed at second.
Rob Manfred gave you a runner at second.
Exactly. And you can't get him in. Now, Rhett Bollinger tweeted this on Saturday. He said the Angels are now 6-4 in extras this season. They were 24-34 in extra inning games from 2020 to 2024 with that new base runner rule was added in 2020. So they've been better this year, but to lose 2 games on consecutive nights against the Jays that you could have easily won. Now, all it took was to bunt a runner over. All it took was a simple throw to first base. All it took was not walking the leadoff hitter. Like, all it took was just 1 or 2 decisions or 1 or 2 plays or 1 or 2 executable moments that the Angels just could not do this weekend.
And it shows the value of putting the ball in play, and that's exactly what the Blue Jays were able to do. And again, that's why they've had so much success this season. I want you to go look at the number of strikeouts that they have versus the rest of the league, and you'll be amazed at the fact that all these guys don't strike out a lot. They're just putting the ball in play, and I think that that's to their advantage, and I think that has a lot to do with why they are where they are currently, sitting in first place, fighting all the way back. Like, they were 2 games under 500 back in May, and they worked their way back. They get into a pivotal series against the Yankees and take all 4 because they wanted it that bad. They wanted to be in first place, and they had to win 3 to tie with the Yankees, and they won all 4 to take the lead in the AL East. And so you couldn't ask for a better opportunity. And so the Blue Jays just took advantage of that. And again, I think that's what separates a team like the Blue Jays from a team like the Angels that, you hope and pray and wish that they're good, but they're just so back and forth and in between that you can't have a lot of confidence going into every single game like you can if you're a fan of the Blue Jays right now.
Sunday's game was another 1-run loss, and we're going to actually talk about that and why that matters on tomorrow's show.
I was going to say, remember when we used to win those run games? Yeah.
We've got some interesting stats on that on tomorrow's show, so tune in for that. But first takeaway from Sunday's game was the Angels left 12 runners on base just on Sunday. 12 just on Sunday. And that wasn't without any help from the commissioner. Like, had 12 guys on base that they just couldn't get across. And when you lose by 1 run, those runners on base that are left there, that's huge.
That's everything.
They were 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. I mentioned this at the top of the show and in last segment. 4 for 30 with runners in scoring position with 34 Ks this weekend, John. 34 strikeouts all weekend long. On Sunday, loaded the bases with 1 out in the 4th, and Campero hit into a double play. They did get 1 home in the 5th inning, a runner in the 5th inning, but then left the bases loaded when Ohapi struck out. Now, Logan, taking accountability, he said, I've been terrible in those situations, and I need to lead the charge, and I need to be better going forward. Get to work tomorrow and put it into motion for the last week before the All-Star break. I appreciate the accountability. Now I just like to see it. That's really honestly what we need to hear. Right. Is we need to hear accountability. What we need to see is that, there are some things that are changing, and some things have changed this year, but we need to see it again. We need to see it on a consistent basis. Now, 6th inning, Nolan Shonowell had a fly out that stranded runners on the corners, and he had kind of a half swing ground out to leave the 2 runners on base in the 8th inning. So the Angels just, even when they made contact, it wasn't great contact because they were kind of sort of committed to the swing or kind of sort of committed to the pitch, which is so frustrating because they did make contact, but it was not great contact. Like they can't even do that right.
No. And that's the problem is, remember, we just had that conversation last week that when they make contact, they have great contact numbers.
Yep.
But it's guys like Campero hitting into a double play. Like Campero's not who we're talking about when they make great contact, right? Like that's the frustrating part. It's my fault though for starting Nolan on my fantasy team because I needed average and on base percentage, and he went like 0 for 5 with 2 strikeouts. So that you can put that one on me. The second takeaway, Mike, Tyler Anderson pitched okay, 5 innings, 8 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts on 91 pitches. There was what was that, a 15 hopper that went through
all the way through the infield that nobody could apparently get to. Right?
Yeah.
Terrible.
He missed a pop-up, or there was a missed pop-up, but Anderson said he wasn't satisfied with how he pitched out there. He said, my pitches weren't in the zone as much as I probably want to be. Fell behind a little bit, especially late. A couple pitches that were mistakes. Look, again, when you're putting up 5 innings, 3 runs against this Blue Jays team, you're not going to strike a lot of people out. Again, 2 Ks. And Anderson only walked 2 people. So despite him feeling like he never had his best stuff, it's a serviceable start, Mike. And and when you lose a game 3-2, and those 3 runs were on Anderson, I mean, you had your opportunities to pick him up, and just nobody's picking him up right now on the mound, or at least in this one, they did not pick him up.
That's the perfect way to describe the pitching this weekend. Very serviceable, right?
Yeah.
And if they lost 10-3, 11-2, then they'd be like, come on, starting pitching. You got to get it together, right?
Yeah.
Like, and obviously the offense has to come through. But when the starting pitching staff is keeping you in games and you're not scoring them 1 run, you're not scoring them 2 runs. Like you can't get 1 more. It's not like you didn't have opportunities. You had a ton of opportunities, which brings us to the third takeaway from Sunday. Blue Jays did all the things, man. They did all the things right this weekend. Everything that they needed to do, they did. And when the Halos tried to do what they were supposed to do, the Jays made the right play, the right defensive play, the right pitch. That the Angels just could not copy and paste what the Jays were doing this weekend. And then in amongst all of that, fourth takeaway, Taylor Ward did get 3 hits on Sunday, including an RBI in the top of the fifth, which was good, but it was just one of those things. It was a just enough hit. It wasn't to put them in the lead or put them ahead of the Jays. It was just enough to stay neck and neck in the race.
Yeah. I want to do something here. So give me 1 second. Mike, you can describe what's going on here.
John's left the show. He's walked away. He's talking in the background.
Grab a couple things here.
He's
let's see.
You hear him?
Oh yeah.
Audio. This is probably great on the audio.
I just want to get some kids' toys to celebrate Taylor Ward. Because we're always dogpiling on Taylor Ward, and we never give him enough credit. What do we want him to do? Hit the game-winning home run? Is that what we want him to? All right, I'm done.
Yeah. That was John's rant. Because we do have moments where we will say some things about Taylor Ward, because I want to see Taylor Ward come through. I want to see Taylor Ward lead the way. He is your cleanup hitter, right? And so that was us celebrating Taylor Ward half-heartedly, because he did get 3 hits. But again, it was just a part of the offense that did just enough to stay in the game, not enough to win the game.
Shout out to my son for providing the instruments in that moment. Mike, 5th takeaway. Mike Trout hit his 14th home run in the first inning. He's not an all-star. Didn't get voted in. Didn't get selected. Was he deserving? We're going to talk about the Halos All-Stars and the non-All-Stars on tomorrow's show. So that does it for our 5 takeaways from each game of this weekend. And boy, it really makes you go, all right, who are we picking in the draft? Who are we trading at the deadline? And those are some conversations that we'll be definitely getting into this week.
Is this fall completely out of it? Does this fit that category for Perry Manassian, do you think?
No.
Okay.
And I say that not as a hopeful Halo fan, but as a Perry Manassian realist. They'll say, well, we just got to see how things go this week.
Yeah.
Again, we had a homestand and we got to.
Well, and that's what Ray Montgomery said about this weekend too. He's like, guys, things just didn't go our way. Shut up, man. Like, it didn't go your way because your team sucked. That's why things didn't go your way, right?
They didn't go your way because
you
made poor decisions. Like, that's the thing is, like, when you hear Logan take accountability, that's why we appreciate him. Not because we went bowling with him once, but because we appreciate his accountability of, I didn't do great and I got to fix that. And he's the only one on this team doing that sometimes, right? He's the only one on this team talking about, like, here's the thing I need to correct. Here's the thing I got to get better at. For all of that said, it seems like his stuff behind the plate wasn't awful in this series.
He handled the pitching staff really well this week.
Yeah. So, again, we appreciate, as fans, accountability instead of, $38 million players running around pretending they don't know how to speak English to reporters and making it a big joke and a big and so it's nice when the young guys take accountability and show much more maturity than some $38 million player that is sitting at home in Texas right now.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. You can find Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you want me to go get the accordion again to play us out? Do you want me to?
Yeah, well, let's finish the show, and once we hit stop, then you can go ahead and do that.
Okay, sounds good. I'll play you my favorite song. It's 2 notes. Give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and connect with Mike and I on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. Mike, what do we have on deck for Tuesday's show?
The Halos have an all-star, and there's a lot of guys that are non-all-stars that didn't make the team. So we're going to discuss that, including a Joe Adell not all-star selection, but some guy
don't even get me started.
We're gonna need an hour show, not just a half-hour show, just to let John talk about that. But we're gonna talk about all of that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
I'm gonna need one of those CPAP machines to help me breathe because I'm gonna be so furious. All right, friends, we hope you'll come back and join us for that. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for putting up with our shenanigans. Thanks for being here with us, and we'll see you back here on Tuesday.
I can't believe you played the accordion on the show.
Well, it's not really a real accordion. I have one. Do you want me to get that one? I'll go get it right now.